Hey, what's going on everybody? RogersBase here with another One Piece news slash speculation video. Now, I know I'm a little bit late on this news, but I really wanted to do a full video rundown of this new video DVD book slash magazine that came out called Jump Ryu Oda. This was posted on Reddit by, let me get the guy's name, OldTibMan5000, but all credit goes to Sandman of the AP forums, and basically he got this book early, went through everything that Oda said, and then there were tons of pictures and screen caps from the DVD that was included in the book that gives us a lot of hints to upcoming storylines and then things that are around Oda's office, and then maybe we can make some assumptions on what we might be seeing in the future based on those images and based on what Oda said. So the first thing I want to do is really quickly run down some of the trivia that, again, this was posted by Sandman of AP Forums. These are his translations. I'm just reading them off the Reddit post. Some of the trivia that was in the book. So the first thing, Oda said he practiced his drawing skill by watching Disney's animation films, such as Peter Pan. And right there, that's something I want to talk about, because I mentioned this in my Crocodile Theory video about how one of the potential backstories for Crocodile, and how Ivankov calls Crocodile Croco Boy, similar to how Luffy is called like Luffy Boy or Mugiwara Boy or whatever, is potentially Crocodile was a little kid that was given injections from Ivankov to make him grown. That's a pretty popular theory. I've seen that around Reddit. I don't fully believe it. You could watch my full Crocodile Theory video to see what I believe is Crocodile's backstory. But for those of you guys who do believe in the Peter Pan backstory of Crocodile, maybe this gives some credence to it. We already know that Oda references Peter Pan just with the name Crocodile, with the hook on his hand, all that other stuff, but I just thought it was interesting that he specifically pointed out that one of his inspirations was Peter Pan. Additionally, he said Disney's art style was awesome back in the day when they made handmade animations. I watched Little Mermaid frame by frame and drew all the characters and face expressions that impressed me. So that kind of explains why Oda draws the big expressions that he does, and all his characters have big eyes. I mean, naturally, like, anime is drawn in that style anyway, but I just think, again, it's cool to see that he drew some inspiration from old classic Disney films. And then obviously we had the mermaids in Fishman Island, so there's another correlation right there. Another thing taken from the book is that at first Oda didn't intend to draw Senor Pink's backstory. His editor was moved when he heard the background of Senor Pink in a meeting with Oda, and then now his past has become popular among the audience, and he's glad that he drew it. For those of you guys who are anime-only watchers, I won't spoil this for you, but I will say right now, I guess spoilers for anyone who isn't completely caught up to the manga, because when we start getting to his notebooks and the things that are on his desk, I will be going into manga spoilers. So just letting you guys know right now, spoiler warning for the later half of this video. But for those of you guys who are anime-only watchers, I do think it's interesting that he mentioned this about Senor Pink's backstory, because you're going to see a Senor Pink versus Frankie episode coming up very soon. It was announced that that is going to be a full episode about 3 weeks from now. I'm excited to see what they actually end up doing with the backstory compared to what went on in the manga, but we're going to see what ends up going down, and I'm curious because clearly he thinks that people liked Senor Pink's backstory. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good chapter, but I guess it's very popular among audiences in Japan, so I'm sure they're going to do a really good job with it. And by them, I mean Toei Animation. Next up, Oda said, before Oda started One Piece, editor Kuishima told him that none of his female characters are cute, which shocked Oda the most, and Oda couldn't sleep that night. Now, I think that's particularly funny, and that might explain some of the character designs of the women post-time skip. Because when he first started, obviously, he drew characters like Nami, but Nami didn't have the how do you say this, assets that she has now in the original chapters of One Piece. And so I think maybe he took this editor's critique about how his females weren't cute, and that's maybe why he created Alvida, because Alvida, if you remember the first time we saw her, was this big fat ugly girl, and then when she ends up getting the Slim Slim fruit, or whatever her fruit is called, and she becomes a beautiful woman, maybe this was put in place and those character designs were put in place based on this editor. So for everybody who complains about the female character designs in One Piece, look to this editor because it's pretty much their fault. So, and the next thing he says is that Oda usually sleeps at night at 2 a.m. and then wakes up at 5 a.m. in the morning. This explains why he's always going on break. I mean, we already knew this about Oda, that he's a hard worker, but the fact that he really doesn't take breaks and that he only sleeps 3 hours a night is just crazy, and goes to show his dedication to the franchise. And, you know, we obviously all love Oda, but Oda needs his rest. I think every time he goes on break, I know a lot of people get upset. I think we're on a break this upcoming week, if I'm not mistaken, in the manga. But I think, obviously, he deserves it. You know, sleep it off for a good week, come back, and then go back to your 3-hour night sleeps. But honestly, I want to see Oda finish this series and finish this series right, so he should take whatever time off he needs in order to get proper rest. Now, with all that being said, those are all the little trivia bits that were in this book. I do want to talk about some of these screen captures from the DVDs and things that are in Oda's office. So I'm just going to go one by one. You guys could follow along in the Reddit post. I'll link it down below. The first image is an image of what appears to be a model of the Terminator. Now this obviously reflects with Frankie's new redesign. When we see Frankie take his face off and he sees, he looks like the Terminator. Clearly that was inspired by the Terminator. Having that in his office, you also see there's like a steering wheel that's on a door and it says Sir Henry Morgan, Axe Hand Morgan. So I'm just from this first picture alone, I'm thinking that a lot of the stuff that we end up seeing in the stories and in the different chapters of One Piece is based off stuff that he actually has in his office. So I'm going to move to the next picture now. And then this one is just of his office. We see that he has a PS4, 2 PS3s, a Wii, a bunch of different controllers. I don't think he probably plays the One Piece games that get released, but I don't think there's going to be, any storyline that revolves around video games or anything like that in the story. But I do think it's interesting that he probably does play all the One Piece games. I know he was heavily involved in the one that came out on Wii U, where he designed the character. I haven't actually played it. I think it's called Unlimited World Red, but it's the one with like the vampire-looking dude. Oda designed the guy himself, even though he's not a canon character, so I do think that's pretty interesting. Now, the next picture, we see he has a model of a bunch of different Star Wars characters. We see Luke Skywalker, Han Solo on the back of a Tauntaun. We see the alien from Aliens. We see Bruce Lee. I do think it's interesting that he has all these different sci-fi things on his shelves, and potentially if we do end up getting a Vegapunk or Future arc or some arc that takes place in space, I wouldn't be surprised to see aliens that look like Alien from the original Ridley Scott movie, or maybe even some references to Star Wars. Maybe not full-on references, but maybe some type of lightsaber technology or some type of use of the Force, maybe some type of like push devil fruit power, or maybe people can like push or pull things. I guess you could kind of say that Kid's devil fruit is that. Kid's devil fruit revolves around, magnetism, and so he can kind of push and pull things, but maybe there'll be another devil fruit that maybe repels things and then pull things back. I guess kind of Kuma's fruit is that a little bit too, with the pawpaw fruit, how he repels things. So, Kuma's heavily involved with Vegapunk. Maybe we'll end up seeing him again in that arc in space. Now, let's jump to another picture really quick. This is of his desk. All right, so this is another picture, and this is of a whole menagerie of animal figures that Oda has on his desk. And I think a lot of these figures and a lot of these animals we will end up seeing as future members of Kaido's fake zone army. And right here, we already see the ram. We know we met Sheep's Head already, so I'm assuming he's probably some type of ram or sheep user, or maybe he has like the horn fruit or something like that. But I do think it's interesting we see the ram there. Some of the other animals that are in this picture, there's a swan, what appears to be a wolf, a polar bear. Bruh, polar bear zone would be powerful. A walrus. Walrus, I think, would be really interesting. I saw someone even mention Jack. We talked about this a couple chapters ago when we first saw Jack, but he's got that weird mask, and his ship has the horns on it, and I saw a lot of people say, well, maybe he is stationed on Zo, and maybe that's why he has the elephant on his ships. But I've also seen a lot of people say that maybe he has some type of devil fruit that relates to an animal with tusks, maybe something like a walrus. But I think it'd make more sense to maybe have him have like some type of mammoth fruit, especially considering we already know that Drake has a prehistoric zone fruit. He has the T-Rex fruit, and so maybe Jack will have something similar to that. I'm not really sure. I didn't even do a speculation video on what I believe Jack's fruit is going to be. But again, I do think it's interesting that he has some of these animals on here, and I'm curious to see which ones he actually ends up pulling for Kaido's zone army. So let's move on to the next image right now. I think that was image 5. Yeah, I skipped image 4 because there wasn't really anything there. I'm going to skip image 6 as well, and we're going to go right to the last image. Well, hold on, let me pull this up. Which is of his notebooks that are on his desk. Now, these are notebooks that Oda has in regards to future story arcs, and I want to point out the 4 that are here right now. He had a full Dressrosa notebook, which looked pretty big, which was seen in a separate screen cap, but then he had 4 that were shown in this image. 1 for Big Mom and her crew, and it actually says on it Whole Cake Island, so I'm assuming we may actually get a full arc on Whole Cake Island, which is Big Mom's headquarters. That would be interesting. The second book has a dragon on it, which everyone obviously believes is the Book of the Revolutionary Army. Now, considering what just went down, and here's where I'm going to get into manga spoilers, what just went down in 803, I would not be surprised to see all the stuff there, like with the Blackbeard pirates and the revolutionaries all tied into that one book. Maybe that's a book on Baltigo, and we'll end up meeting all the different members of the Revolutionary Army, but I do believe that they are going to play an enormous role in the story moving forward, not just in the final war. I think we may actually get a full-on revolutionary arc. Additionally, there is a book that's just marked Gear 4, so I'm assuming that that's just all the different like Bounce Man transformations and all the different powers of Gear 4 that we haven't even seen yet, because really we've only seen Luffy do it once. We saw Luffy be in Gear 4 mode during the fight with Doflamingo, and we haven't seen anything else since then. So I know there's a lot of cool theories out there about different like Beast Mode transformations or different Gear 4 transformations. I know there's a really good theory video out there by One World HD. If you guys haven't checked that out already, go check him out. He's a good friend of mine. He does One Piece theories, and he did a really cool theory video on the animals that Luffy fought during the time skip and how maybe they relate to new transformations within Gear 4. We already saw Bounce Man in the fight with Doflamingo. Maybe we'll end up seeing Pounce Man as One World HD predicted. So I do think it's interesting that there's a full book dedicated to Gear 4. I'm sorry, I'm like stuttering over my words. I'm just recording this whole thing in one big video. But I do think it's interesting that, again, he has a full book dedicated to Gear 4, and I do believe that there are plenty more powers in that form that we just haven't seen yet because of how big that book is. And finally, he has a notebook dedicated, a big notebook, mind you, dedicated to Zou. Now, a lot of us predicted that the next big arc was going to be the Wano Country arc, and that Zou was kind of going to be like the middle arc between Dressrosa and Wano. That's where we were going to meet Law's crew again. That's where maybe we were going to meet up with some other characters. We're going to meet up with the rest of the Straw Hat crew, Caesar Clown, Momonosuke, and then finally they will all go to Wano. But based on how it's being portrayed in the manga right now, they're really building it up, you know, having the city on the back of an elephant. Now it's known that Zou is the home of the Minkmen tribe. I believe Zou is going to be a big arc moving forward, and I'm actually really excited about it. I probably will do another video on what I believe Zou is going to entail, who I think the villain is going to be, what I think the main storyline is going to be, what I think the connection is with that one deer girl that we saw a couple chapters ago. I think it was 795, 796. I did a whole theory on that, but I think I am going to do another theory video on Zou, because there's a lot of stuff that Oda clearly pulled from in the design of the elephant, even in the fact that the elephant is 1,000 years old and has been traversing through the seas. I think there's a lot of cool stuff there, and again, based on the size of this book, I think we are in for a massive arc on Zou. And you know what? I'm excited for it. I think any arc on the back of a giant 1,000-year-old elephant is going to be exciting. So, guys, I just wanted to point out all this stuff. I think there was a lot of interesting, cool things here. You can read the full Reddit post yourself. I will link to that in the description below. Again, all credit goes to the guy who originally posted this on the AP forums. There are a lot more details that I skipped, a couple other images that weren't as interesting to me. But guys, let me know in the comments below which of these 4 books you are most excited about. Are you most excited to see more powers of Gear 4? More excited to see the different revolutionaries based on even what we saw in 803 with Dragon and Sabo and Koala and that weird girl / guy, not really sure, with the hat with the goggles, who may be the Crow Zone user, not really sure. You excited about that? Are you excited about the Whole Cake Island Big Mom stuff? Because the fact that she has her own book probably means we're getting an enormous arc. Or are you just excited to jump into Zou based on what we've already seen in the past couple chapters and based on what you saw in this notebook? Again, let me know in the comments below. Like this video if you liked anything I had to say. Please be sure to subscribe because I bring you guys One Piece videos, reviews, and theory videos every week. And until next time, I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye!